The story of Adam and Eve is really powerful, and one of the first that you learn in the Bible. I've always had one problem with it, though. I don't like the idea that knowledge destroyed paradise. Then again, they do say that ignorance is bliss. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing the new Assassin's Creed movie. Now, as much as it's not a comic book, it's very much an adaptation of a story that I like and one that I've covered before. So, just to give you a quick background, it's based on the ideas introduced in the Amulet novel. I like to say that it's one part Doomsday Prepper, one part Ancient Alien, and one part Dan Brown novel. It's all very complicated and complex, but it's a really awesome story when you get down to it. In fact, I gave the video game a platinum. The movie? Not so much. Here in the non-spoiler section, I will say, movies based on video games don't have the best track record. I like a lot of them, but not all of them. And at the end of the day, I give it a little bit of credit because it tried to take itself more seriously than others. I also want to say that they put a lot of effort into it. Everything I say is wrong with this movie, you have to realize, I think they at least tried. And I'm going to give them credit for that. So I'm giving this story a silver. I really wanted to give it a gold, but there's no way I could justify that. This story just doesn't have that in it. At no point do I regret spending the money to go see this movie. I'm really glad I saw it in theaters, but I'm also totally understanding that it's going to leave a lot of people out in the cold. I'll be honest with you. If you play 15-20 minutes worth of any video game in the modern Assassin's Creed story, you probably will learn as much about the Assassins and the Templars as you do in this movie. On the other hand, there's a lot more that you could have gone into when you're making the movie, but I understand that they had time constraints. In general, the movie does have a problem with its linearity. There's several points where it gets too cliche, and just in general, the pacing could have been kicked up a notch. But overall, the acting was good. The basic story is always awesome because it's Assassin's Creed. And there were some spectacular filmology in there between set dressing and just in general action sequences and CGI. Very awesome movie. If you're looking for something to just waste some money and some time on, you would be hard pressed to find a better. Who am I kidding? Rogue One's a better movie, but okay, if it wasn't going up against Rogue One, it would have been an awesome movie. I will just say one thing to those of you that have played the video games and are big video game fans. This story is not as compatible with the video game story as I would have thought it was going to be. I thought they advertised that this was a side story going on in the same world as Desmond's, but when we get into the spoiler spot, we're going to talk about the fact that that just isn't true. You'd have to do quite a bit of bending over backwards to make this story fit in the same world that Desmond saved the world. But either way, it's still the basics, it's still the same concept, and as I said in my adaptation video for G.I. Joe, sometimes adaptations don't take the exact same story, they take the concept. And there was concept and theme galore taken. But before we get into that, I think I need to throw up a quick spoiler warning. So from this point forward, everything's fair game. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. So again, I can't stress how much I liked this movie, even though I didn't love it. But at the same time, I want to just go in with open eyes here. I've played through several of the games and know the story inside and out. So when I examine this, it's hard for me not to draw parallels to the video game. If you don't, well, maybe you'll see this in a different light. This is one of the first movies that I've reviewed that I didn't go in with someone who wasn't a big fan. So I don't have a comparison there. However, we're going to get this started with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And unlike all the other times, when I start with good, I just mean good. Sometimes more often than not, I start with the great in the good. We're going to start the good off with the cast, and Michael Fassbender is always a great attraction to any movie. He can get into his part, he's pretty believable, and he can sell the action sequences. And for the women in the audience, he's not too bad on the eyes. However, I want to call out Jeremy Irons specifically. He very often gets accused of chewing the scenery, and in this movie he manages to do it without causing too much stress. He doesn't pull the attention. He doesn't do a B movie. No, at any point, Jeremy Irons is probably one of the best character actors I've ever seen out of him. The second thing I'm going to call out for the good is the action sequences. Whoever did their choreography and whoever did their visual effects were masterful. In fact, several of the fight sequences, I think, are worthy of any superhero movie. The only thing is that several points of it are obviously a little herky-jerky because of scene cuts, but that's not the choreographer's fault, that's the editor's fault. So, all in all, every action sequence in the movie, especially one of those first ones, is awesome beyond compare. The next thing I want to talk about is their use of Abstergo Industries, and specifically the fact that they made it a semi-realistic company. The fact that they had people walking around who could even give the assassins a bit of begrudging respect gave me a kind of a cool feeling. I like the idea that they aren't just walking, talking, mustache-twirling villains. However, I will also say that it's not exactly super realistic. This is still a video game movie, but it was definitely one of the better parts. And then just because I'm going to be contrarian, I'm going to put the Creed itself as both good and bad. For the good part, they didn't shy away from it. Right from the beginning, we learn nothing is true, everything is permitted. And with that, we're going to transition into the bad. So I ended the good on it, I'll start the bad on it. The creed is said over and over again, and it is shown. It's even explained in a rather straightforward way exactly what it means. But that's part of the problem. The creed has always been something that became true for the assassins as the story went on, something that meant something a little different to each member of the cast. In this, it just kind of is said, and they spell it out much more clearly. And then from over-explained to under-explained, the pieces of Eden, specifically the apple of Eden, isn't really going into exactly what it is. And when it is, it kind of is left, not exactly the way it is in the video game. Specifically the Forebearer race. You know what? We almost never hear of them, and when we do, it's only as a, well, maybe. One of the coolest things I can think of about the way this series works is the Doomsday Prepper, Ancient Alien, Dan Brown conspiracy angle, and how it all mixes together. And they kind of skipped out on that. And when they did, they also left Desmond out. Because, like I said during my pre-spoiler section, this story doesn't quite fit in. And here's why. At one point in the movie, the Templars come right out and say, "We have never been this close to an apple before." And this movie takes place in 2016. So the 2012 incident obviously never happened. And with that, it also doesn't really go into explaining anyone else using the Animus. I mean, this is not the video game Animus, obviously, but at the end of the day, we see other assassins, and well, I'll get to that in the ugly part. For my final bad, write this day down, because it's something I never thought I'd ever say. This movie wasn't dark enough. They pulled too many punches. Yeah, there was part of me that actually went to see it wondering if my nephew could see it, because he's only 10. And you know what? No, they really nerfed this story much more than I thought they were going to. We start off with a character on death row, and what's he on death row for? Well, spoiler alert, a single solitary murder. Yep, you heard me. This guy killed one person, and later in the movie we find out it was a pimp. That's right, he was probably some form of self-defense, too. They go so far in making sure that Michael Fassbender's character isn't a bad guy that they forget the fact that part of the coolness of this is that there are spots of gray. I mean, here's this guy who was on death row and is now completely taken away, and why didn't they just have him kidnapped like they did Desmond then? I mean, what was the point of the whole being in prison thing then? If he didn't really commit a crime that was worthy of being death penalty. Then again, you know what? I don't live in Texas. Maybe in Texas they do kill you if you kill just one person, even if it's in self-defense or something like that. I really don't know. And then the ugly. And the first of the two things that I'm calling the ugly on this is going to be tropes and cliches. CinemaSins is going to have a field day ripping this apart. Honest Trailers is going to have a field day ripping this apart. Because at the end of the day, so many things. Oh, look at that. It's really this. Oh, wow, here's the hidden reveal. Oh, wait, you could have guessed that reveal right from the beginning of the story? Yeah, probably. And even where they start it with the main character as a kid, just so that we can see him. In fact, I can hardly wait to hear the phrase, "and he's eating an apple just to prove what an asshole he is." You wait. You wait and see that. But the second part is the other assassins. Assassin's Creed so much can't just be an individual movie, it needs to be an ensemble piece. But to be honest, anyone not being played by Michael Fassbender, I kind of felt like they needed, like, I don't know, maybe at least 5 more minutes worth of character development. And that's like a dozen characters that needed like 5 more minutes, which would have added a whole nother hour to the runtime, which, yes, I know wasn't going to work. All in all, several bits of drama could have been dropped from this. Several bits of, oh, mysterious, will this happen, won't this happen, could have been dropped, and in its place could have been added a little more mythology and a little more character development. And with that, this might have gone all the way up to being a gold movie, or at least an Electrum. But any way you look at it, I'm happy with the movie. But I don't think it's going to be a blockbuster. And hey, I could be wrong. It's been known to happen before. If you liked this review, or if you just liked the way I talk about crazy things, you can support me on Patreon, or you can do one better and subscribe to this channel. I'm trying to build up to 100 subscribers, so give me a thumbs up, a comment, and a share if you are interested in helping build this community so that I can talk about the heart of the stories we tell. I did review the base story of Desmond Miles when it comes to Assassin's Creed, so if you're interested in hearing that story, I will put a link up. In the meantime, I hope you have a good night, and thanks for listening.